talking about the second part of how to write a fairy tale. So, if you watched the first video, you know all about brainstorming. I watched a friend of mine make a video about how to draw a dragon, how to draw a wolf, and they were directed drawings. And while I was doing that, I was filling in the chart that I showed you in our first video. So in this one, I was drawing a dragon, and so I thought, oh, I'm gonna write a story about a dragon. And then as I was drawing it, I was thinking about the setting. And as I was drawing my dragon, I was thinking about the show Avatar: The Last Airbender. And so it made me think, oh, he has a big animal, and I bet my dragon is going to live in the mountains just like in that story. And I drew the stars because the dragon can fly really high up in the nighttime sky. And then as I was drawing, I was really struggling with the wings. One of them was too small and it just looked weird. And then that made me think of in Finding Nemo, how he has one tiny little fin that's smaller. So then I thought, well, maybe the problem in my story is that he's going to have a small wing. Or maybe as I was drawing his nostril, I thought, oh, he can't blow fire out of his nose or maybe his mouth. Maybe that's the problem in my story. And then, or maybe he just can't fly. Maybe he gets lost like Little Red Riding Hood. So all these things I was thinking about just as I was drawing. And so I was writing little notes down. You can use pictures, you can use words. For each of those problems, I was thinking, okay, there has to be a solution. So if he has a small wing, the solution would be he would learn that it's okay to be different, and it doesn't matter if you have a small wing. It's okay, he'll figure it out. If he can't breathe fire or can't fly, he learns how to do it, because isn't that what we're trying to do? And then he gets lost. He makes friends along the way. Gets rescued by some of his friends maybe. Just like Little Red Riding Hood, she gets rescued by the woodcutter. Or maybe Snow White, she gets rescued by the prince, but the 7 dwarfs help her. So then I'm going to show you the second piece as we get started today. So here's what I came up with yesterday, and yours will look different, and that's okay. So you have your character, your main character, you have your setting, and then you have some ideas for problems and solutions. Maybe you just have one problem and solution. All stories have a problem and a solution. Sometimes the problem is really just a journey and where they're going from one place to another. Sometimes it's like an errand that's gone wrong, sort of like Jack and the Beanstalk, where he was sent on an errand to do something and it went wrong because he, instead of getting selling the cow and getting money, he ended up bringing back the magic beans. So here's my first page, and yours will look slightly different, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be organized like this. You just want to make sure, do you have your character? Do you have your setting? And some ideas for problem and solution. So the next thing we need to do is organize our story. So the beginning of a story, you'll always start with the character and setting. So whether you're reading a fairy tale, like Once Upon a Time in the Deep Dark Woods, or whether you're reading a regular story like Knuffle Bunny, they all start with a setting and the characters, and they introduce them. So I might write character and characters, and I'm still not sure of my other characters, but I drew a little sketch again, one to practice my drawing, and two, just why not? Now you'll notice I left a lot of space here in my middle, and then the end, not as much space. At the end of the story, that's where your solution is, and you're gonna kind of wrap it up with heart sentences, and they lived happily ever after. Maybe you want to end it like that. Or he was really happy to find his way home to see his grandma. Whatever the story is, you want to think about, how am I going to solve that problem and have a happy ending? Okay. Now the middle, that's where the bulk of the story and the planning take place. And I left a lot of space for this. So as you're looking at yours, I have to twist it a little bit because I can't write it straight. It's uncomfortable. So in the middle of the story, you're going to think about, it's not usually one event. And I know all the stories that we've read throughout the year, that you've read, there's usually a few events that happen. It's probably 3. So just like Jack comes down from the beanstalk 3 times with 3 different items. Maybe those are your 3 things that happen where the story is moving along. In Cinderella is another fairy tale, which we haven't read, but some of you know that story. Different things happen throughout the story. I'm erasing these dots because it's confusing me. So think about what you want to happen in the middle. So let's say I go back to my problem and I say, let's see, I'm going to go with no fire. He can't blow fire. So the first time I'm going to say he tries to blow fire. Tries to blow at school. And then maybe I'm leaving a little space so I could draw a picture. Kids make fun of him. Or one kid makes fun of him. Maybe I'm going to have a bully. Do you see how I'm thinking of these things as I'm writing? Kids making fun. So now I know that I have my bad guy, which is a key piece to having in your story. Okay, so he tries to blow fire at school. One of the kids makes fun of him. I can fix this, it's not very important. This is my brainstorming page, and there's one attached to this as well. And then what happens? Let's see. So at the end, what is he going to do? Well, of course, he's going to blow fire, and it's going to be amazing. And maybe he rescues somebody when he's blowing the fire. I'm going to write that. So I'm brainstorming. I'm thinking through. Okay, so then he's going to feel sad because the kids made fun of him, and maybe he has a coach or a teacher or a friend who teaches him. And then maybe there's another incident where he's practicing. I'm leaving a little space because I don't know. He practices because it has to have a lesson, right? So the lesson of my story is that he's got to practice to learn how to blow fire. It's not going to wake up one day and just be there. So he's got to practice. So that's the lesson learned. And we talked about that before. If you didn't see that lesson, go back and check it out. The lesson learned is that you practice equals mastery. So this is the piece that I'm going to think about. And maybe I'll start drawing pictures of this kind of stuff. Or maybe I'll start. So after you've sort of sketched out some ideas, you can add some pictures to help you think, review what you have for your details. And then when you feel ready, you can start on step 3, which is sitting down to write it. Step 3, writing. You always want to start with when. Once upon a time. It doesn't have to be that way. A few years ago, or many years ago, you could do it that way. Many years ago. There's lots of ways that you can start it, but you want to have when. I started with once upon a time in a land high up in the mountains. This is my where. Where does it take place? In a village, deep in the woods. Any of those work. And then you have the last piece is who. Once upon a time in a land high up in the mountains lived a little dragon named, I haven't thought of his name yet. And that's okay, I can go back and add it. So then I'm going to start writing. I'm going to go back to my brainstorming, my step 2. Okay, so I have to set the stage for a little dragon who's trying to blow fire. One day at dragon school, the teacher began the lesson by blowing fire. And you don't have to watch me write it. But here's the strategy. So then there's the little kid that makes fun of him. You'll notice I'm going to leave lots of spaces after I feel like I'm done with each piece here. Tries to blow fire at school, one kid makes fun of him. I'm going to leave myself a lot of space because if I want to go back and edit, I can do that. If I want to cross out things and add more things, I can do that. So space is key. And this dot is just as a guideline for me, but I could easily turn the page and start writing over here and leave some more spaces. Okay? Every time I start a new idea, I'm going to come back to my planning page in step 2. Oh, then he's sad. And maybe there's a whole piece where he has a coach or a friend teaching him how to do fire. and maybe they practice and practice and practice. And maybe there's some silly things that happen in there. Like he accidentally catches things on fire, or he trips in the woods and he burns a little stick in front of him. So these are ideas that I'm just thinking of talking about it with you. And maybe you want to record your ideas using something on your voice recorder or the microphone on Seesaw. You could record those things, or you could use photos and go into photos and make a little video of your own thinking. That might help you. Or maybe share it with a sister, a brother, a mom, a dad, grandma, anybody who's around who you can sort of bounce ideas off of. Right now, I'm bouncing them off you. So every time I'm going to go back, I'm going to check my outline, and then I'm going to start a new section of my writing so that by the time I'm done, I have sort of a rough beginning to my story. Good luck. Happy writing.